exposure, and so many of our students don't have that exposure. And one of my first schools, the first school I ever went to in Washington, D.C., the teachers came from Teach for America, and the demographics of those teachers were not Washington, D.C. area,
Right.
and their race was not black. And the student population was 98% black, 100% disadvantaged. And literally teachers walked out October, September, were walking out of the building saying, I can't do this, right? Because there was no emotional connection to these kids, to this situation, to the school at all, and some other things.
And they were, I mean, I think that, like, because of, you know, our historic history of America, is like, you don't even think, like you said, you don't even think that these black children could be great. So you're trying to teach them at this level, and a lot of them, right? And a lot of them are like, no, I'm here. And if you push me to get here, I can show you I'm actually here, right? You know? So it's like, that's why I love, like, even your mantra of, like, I can fix it. It's like, I can see you going into the school, like, I'm going to fix this. And that's what I love.
I'm completely opposite of both of you. Okay. So I was born here, I grew up here. My majority has been all black everything. So I've always been motivated by black teachers and had black I went to HBCU, I had black professors. So it wasn't until after college that I realized where I was. And it was like, because I was a math major too, and it's like, oh, Crystal Price math major, yeah, come in for this position, and you walk in and they're like, oh, you're Crystal. It's like, yes, I am. And that is where I learned that the world expects so much more from us than anyone else. Like, there's no room for error. And I didn't understand that when I was coming up in school, and they were like, no, you have to be better. You know, that's where my mantra came from. Like, sometimes this is okay. Because it's like, we always have to do 180% in order to be just in a room. And it promotes a great work ethic, but it also places a lot of stress on yourself and what you're doing and whom you're doing it with. So that's why I find it important to just insert this piece of healing into the community. Like, you can go to a therapist, but you can start by yourself. You can start lying on your mat. You can start with those sacred hours in the morning to just lay and be and sort things out before you get into your day. So I love instilling that. I love that children see me. So my nieces, my nephews, their friends are like, we do yoga, and they're like standing on their heads, and I'm like, yeah, you know. And it was so funny, one of my clients' son, I think he's about 4 or 5, and he's like, I know yoga, and he sat in lotus, and he's like, and I'm like, yes, and he's like, I'm centering myself. I'm like, yes, King, center yourself. So I love that this is trickling down to the baby so that they can come up with it and share it with whom they need to share it with, because so many of us did not have that.
And it's just that emotional regulation. Like, you know, you need it. And I think men need it. We all need it, but men need it a lot too, because they're taught to not be as emotional, you know.
And I feel like black men feel so unseen and unheard all the time that it is imperative that you at least find it within yourself, because so many of you feel like you won't find it anywhere else. Even, I mean, there are places where it may be, but, you know, you may not feel that, you may not receive it.
Right.
So it's just important to have it within you so that when you are ready to receive it, it's already open.
Right.
Yeah, I was raised that way, so I definitely get where you're coming from.
Same.
But Ice, speak on it.
Yes, I just open it up.
Yeah, so I guess you could say I was lucky enough to be raised in Southeast DC my whole life. So
about that experience.
so I guess I picked up a lot more of a dual personality than some other people, because even though I lived in Southeast, I went to schools like everywhere. Like, I've been to schools like all over DC. So I went to schools in Northwest, I've been to schools in Northeast, been to schools in Southeast, like, been all over the place. And so with that, you kind of get kind of like two perspectives. Like I definitely remember like when I was in high school, it's like, okay, I started off at School Without Walls up in Northwest. So you
I like that school.
That school actually did not like me, but that was the academic programs of it were very good. But outside of that, it didn't really help me as a person. Like, I just know that when I went up to walls around GW, like it's a whole different space, and like you're not worried about really anything other than academics and things like that. And it's hard to relate to some of your other peers because they come from like mostly like more affluent families and neighborhoods and things like that. And it's hard to kind of find your space because then you're like, okay, like I'm from Southeast, but I kind of like comics a little bit and stuff like that. So like, am I like a nerd, or like am I black enough to hang out with the black people, but am I too black to be with the white people? And it's like, it's just weird finding yourself in that. And then you remember at the end of the day, every day after school, you still have to get on the train and go back to where you actually live at. You have to stand at the bus stop over there, and then when you stand at the bus stop, you have to be in a totally different mode than you were all day at school, because it's like, okay, now I'm off of academics, and now I'm like, I gotta make it home. So
that's an experience in itself.
Yeah,
going from surviving to thriving, or thriving to surviving.
So it was an odd experience, but I think it definitely helped make me more of a balanced person, because I got to see a lot of different perspectives.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Where did you learn to code switch? Did you learn in high school, or did you learn earlier? Because you said that you had a duality, but I learned to code switch early. So
I think
I learned it later.
I think around like 14 is when I really consciously was understanding it.
So high school.
Yeah,
right before
because
high school. I just wasn't really as aware or really paying attention to the things that were really going on around me until then. Like, I just was really in my own world. Like, just was a kid. Like, I want to play video games and stuff like that. But then when you get older, you realize, all right, I'm standing at this bus stop. You can't be playing your Game Boy and stuff like that at the bus stop, because somebody's going to come and take your Game Boy. Like, somebody's going to come and take your Game Boy. So then it's like, you have to learn through experiences like that. Like, all right, I was playing my game and stuff like that on the bus. Then you realize, like, okay, like, it's other people on the bus who, they don't have this at home. So it's like, they see that you have it, so they might try and take that from you. So then you're like, okay, so I have to learn that I can't take things out everywhere. And then if you do, then you have to be very aware of your surroundings and things like that. Everything. You can't just be in your own world all the time, like, everywhere. You gotta pay attention to your surroundings and things like that. Otherwise, bad things can happen to you. And then I think at 14, that's really when I started to really realize that, because I didn't really understand the concept. Like, I knew, but I had never really processed the thoughts, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I had like traumatic experiences like when I was younger, but I just never really thought about them until I really got older, because like I never really discussed it with my parents or my mom or anything like that. So it's kind of like that was a portion that I felt like I had to grow through myself, which I guess all helped make me
well-rounded person.
Like a really well-rounded person.
That's real. I like this conversation because going into Get Home Safe, Mental Health Monday, and all the work we've done, especially for this year, I wanted to bring the wellness community together with the mental health community and how important that is. Because it's like, I can't tell someone go and get therapy from a therapist and they come home and it's like there's dishes, what does the air smell like, what's their self-care routine like, because it's like, so get help but go back to the place that's not helping. Don't tell them how to change their surroundings and how important that is, or the people around them. Would you guys be able to like speak on how important the people behind the scenes are to the work that you do, in terms of who supports you, who you have a conversation with, who you even sometimes bounce ideas off of, and how important that is for your work and your wellness? I know that was a lot, but it's
that's your support system.
It's almost all of my work, honestly.
Right.
How I even got into lifted classes was there was this professional Black women's cannabis group. And they were like, hey, you know, we're kind of connoisseurs. This is what we enjoy. This is what we do. Would you mind doing a yoga class for us? Because I just think that would be amazing. And I went into this totally blind, like, oh, okay, so I have to do this with other people, like, you know. So I developed what I thought was a safe class to introduce to, because a lot of them had never done yoga before. And those students began to become regulars.
Okay.
And then my friends would see it like, oh, that's cool. So then they come and now they're regulars and now their friends are regulars. So it just all, and I didn't have much advertising. I think I did it on like Instagram. And from there, it was even to you. I think my roommate knew you from elsewhere. And she, she saw him in the video. She's like, oh, that's my friend. I know that. And I was like, oh, that's great. So
small world.
Yeah, the way it all intertwines, and people of like mentalities, the way that they just speak to each other and they share, and it comes back to me full circle, because now from those lifted classes I see what people seek from my classes, what they may be looking for in a yoga class, and I'm able to apply that through all other areas, in perinatal and in vinyasa and at the park. And it came to a point where a lot of the students didn't even want the lifted anymore. They're like, oh, I'm just here for class, I'll take this with me, you know. And I'm like, oh, okay, great, have fun at home. So I just like that it introduces so many techniques and practices to people who don't want to go to a packed studio with people who don't look like them, or who may be afraid to practice in public just yet.
Yes.
So I just love that the community opens that door for me in more ways than one.
Okay, so the community is very powerful to your life.
Definitely, yeah. Because it feeds me and it gives me what I need to feed the community. Because if you tell me what you need, I can, you know, at least give you a technique to reach it, or to lessen it, or whatever the case may be. Otherwise, I'm just going out blind, shelling out what I need, and that's not going to help you much.
What's funny about what you just said is the work that I do right now, especially those shorts that you guys have seen. One of my philosophies, Kristen's heard me say this, if you give them what they want before they ask for it, they'll never ever doubt you, and they'll always believe in whatever you do next, because they know he's given it to us before we ever asked. That's why I'm so intent on, like, okay, I need to learn more. How do I present it?
It's so amazing.
How do I make it digestible? Thank you. I appreciate that. It's a lot of work, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, I'm all about the community. Like I am really like in the community. I was just talking to a friend and she's like, you do so much community work. But I think that you can't be a person or a human without like serving the community. I think Shirley Chisholm said it better than I just did, but she definitely said, like, you know, service is like the rent you pay for living on earth. And I think that like you have to know what the community wants. I think that's customer service, kind of what you were saying, right? Like you have to know what the community wants in order to like give them what they want. And I, like you're saying, is like doing the research and understanding people, which is why I went into psychology, is because you have to. If you don't understand the people, how do you really serve them or provide a good service?
Faint clap of thunder.